Hi everyone, it's Emily, and here we go again with retro gaming prices in a post-COVID era. I think we've seen this song and dance a few times now, and it's only really been intensified with the presence of YouTube, social media, just really highlighting now that these digital storefronts are closing or they're just doing away with physical games entirely for modern systems. A lot of people are looking at retro games once again and seeing prices climb. Now, I wanted to make this video not to incite any FOMO that people need to go out right now. Otherwise, they're going to miss out on some childhood favorite game that they've forgotten about or hidden gems they didn't know about on certain systems. No. This video is mostly going to be highlighting my current thoughts on retro game collecting at the moment, and also how I'm not falling for those price hikes once again. So I was definitely someone who fell into the buy now before it's too late trap. And a lot of this is actually reflected in the early days of my YouTube channel. Most, I guess recently, was the 3DS eShop closure, where I love the 3DS. It's one of my favorite systems ever for games, and there are a lot of wonderful titles that you can't play anywhere else. So I spent a lot of money, as documented on this channel, trying to obtain some of them as kind of my last hurrah for the system. And I eventually created a library of 3DS games that I wanted. I have since kind of purged that library because I did go a little bit into a buying frenzy, which is very, very common to do, especially when FOMO starts to kick in, that this is the last time you'll find these games for these prices. But now, fast forward to 2026, I've since purged, I want to say, maybe 25% of my 3DS collection, just trying to curate it to the games that I actually care about. And I've also noticed a lot of prices have kind of dipped from the highs that I did buy them, when I was fooled thinking that they would just go higher once the eShop is completely shut down. And I can see this pattern happening now for probably future systems down the line. Right now with the PS3, there's a lot of people rushing to pick up some of those games that used to be dirt cheap. Because the PS3 used to be kind of the go-to place to collect games for many new collectors, especially within the last few years. And there's always going to be different waves of these retro gaming spikes due to recent activity with, Sony declaring that the stores will completely shut down soon. I'm sure the same thing will happen for PS Vita games. I haven't been tracking them too closely myself, but I've seen a lot more interest in the PS Vita system for this reason. A lot of people are also speculating that retro games will continue to climb once Sony just ends physical media altogether with the PS5 and PS6 and beyond. So there's a lot of buying frenzy going on right now for these systems. Not just for Sony, but for really all the systems, that people are thinking, this is the last time I'll be able to obtain true physical games at these prices, or be able to actually find them. I think this is something that is very easy to get swept up into, and it could be very exciting because everyone loves chasing those hidden gems they've never heard of, or buying back games they meant to add to their collection or kind of forgot about for a little bit. But I think this is where we sometimes need a little bit of a reality check. And that is what I'm trying to channel myself, and trying to, not get swept into that process once again. So the PS3 system is interesting for me personally because that is an era I completely skipped over. I was deep into school. I didn't really have funds to buy a new gaming system, and I just never really invested my time in that ecosystem, mostly because there are not a lot of exclusive JRPGs now. Some of them have been ported onto modern systems, which I'm thankful for, but there are still some really great collections. Like if you want to own the physical PS2 collections for Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, like those would be something I would, or rather could see myself getting just for my own personal collection because I love those games so much. But at this point in time, and with, of course, prices trending upwards, I don't really want to be involved. The idea of owning a PS3 sounds fun, especially like a backwards compatible one where I could play my PS2 games in slightly an upscaled version of them. But I had to ask myself the question, will I actually get around to playing on a PS3 if I were to buy one? And would I also play those collections and other obscure games I was kind of eyeing once I obtain them? And I think the answer is no. I really don't think I would play them anytime in the near future. And one thing that I've been very thankful for, especially concerning the PS3 system, is how many remasters and remakes we've been getting. And I think we're going to be getting even more in the future. So while it would be nice to, have a little section for the PS3 back right there behind me, I don't think I need to go out of my way and buy a very trending console and system right now. So while I still enjoy buying and adding retro games to my collection, like I do have plans on adding more to that little PS2 section there, as well as some Game Boys and maybe the Nintendo DS at some point, I do want to fill out and curate those collections more in the future. I think my strategy when it comes to retro game collecting is definitely not to follow the trends and go elsewhere, because I think as we see systems be really highlighted because of one reason or another in the news, or people are hyping them up online, and it becomes, a viral trend to play or talk about games on that particular system, I think I'm just going to look elsewhere, because there's great games on so many systems that are not that expensive in comparison. There are a lot of bangers on, for example, the PS2, and while PS2 is kind of known for expensive JRPGs, there are some that are still relatively affordable and rather cheap. And other popular games that I still need to get a case for, or because I do have a binder of loose discs. I think that would be very nice to add, ones they printed a ton of copies for, like Sly Cooper or Jack 3 I still need to get, and those type of games. So for me, my collection isn't really trying to seek out the rare and expensive games. That has never been the intent of how I want to collect. And I want to make sure that no sort of trends or, changes in the ecosystem of retro gaming is going to change that. So will I be missing out on some fantastic titles on the PS3 or elsewhere because they're expensive? Yes. And I think I'm okay with that. If there are certain games that I haven't purchased up till now, I don't think I'll necessarily feel like I'm missing out on them. Because again, I'm so backlogged on my literal backlog back there, as well as new games coming out. There's always going to be games to play. Will there be a couple of games that we really need to add to my collection that are, of course, really expensive? Like, for example, Xenosaga 3, I've been kind of looking at and eyeing, which is like a $300 PS2 game. Yes, I think that would be awesome to own someday. And if there comes a time where maybe after I emulate it and I really love the game, I think I'm willing to pay a more premium price for that one game rather than speculate on, say, 10 or more games I've never played before that I kind of bought thinking I should buy these now at this price before they get more expensive. Because what happens if the so-called game that's supposed to get expensive is not a good game and you don't actually vibe with it? You're going to have to figure out, okay, now we have to resell this game, and that is work. And sometimes when you do sell things, you take a loss. And so all that time trying to chase it, paying a premium price for it, only for it to be, not as expensive, especially after the fees, trying to sell it, it's all kind of a headache. So I am trying to be a lot more deliberate what older games I add back to my collection. So will prices continue going up for PS3 games and other retro games? Probably, with adjusted for inflation. I think that's inevitable for some titles. For all the titles, no. I don't think all the titles that are seeing spikes right now are going to obtain or stay at that level or even go higher than they currently are. And, I don't really necessarily want to chase that. Again, I don't see my video game collection as an investment at all financially. It is purely for my own pleasure, my own hobby, something that makes me happy. And having an expensive game on my shelf does not necessarily equal more happiness to me, especially if I had to pay a pretty penny to get it. So I do think kind of zooming out on all this, the future of retro game collecting, it's always going to be there. I think we're going to see trends of different consoles here and there, of some, going up and then some going down. For me, again, I just want to kind of zero in on the consoles that are important to me. So the ones I own right now. I'm probably not going to add any other systems, despite having not all the systems, of course, to my collection. And also, again, just be very deliberate which ones I do add back. And if I had to pay more of a premium than, say, how much they were today, so be it. But I think big thing for me is a lot of the games I'm usually interested in are very popular games that, I never got a chance to experience. And they have a very high chance of getting some sort of remaster or remake down the line. So for me, I am probably just content waiting or just emulating. I've been a lot more okay with emulating games that are just not available, to purchase legally. And there are some really cool things you can do with certain emulators that makes the experience better than the original. I've been eyeing, I know some people are really into like the Retro Tank for their PS2, and I've thought about that. But there's actually, I think, a cooler way to play them if you have a PC. The PC SX2, for example, is a way where you can take your physical disc, burn a digital copy onto your PC, and the emulators and tools that they have really enhanced the experience to play them. So I'm really kind of looking at that way to play a lot of my, for example, PS2 games in a modern way as someone who does not own a CRT. Retro gaming has become a hobby that many of us are being priced out of, myself included. I just don't have funds to, chase wildly expensive older games that may or may not break down someday. But I think we could still be part of it and smart about it. When it comes to my current collection, I'm really trying to be, again, deliberate and not given to FOMO buying, especially some of these really cool older titles that I missed out on. And I've kind of made peace that it's okay to miss out on them because there's always going to be really cool games and ways to experience these games moving forward. We're never going to miss out on gaming, even if we do miss out on a disc or two along the way. And I'd like to take this time to thank all of my channel members who help make videos like these and my live streams possible. And a big shout out to my Orbit Architect level members: Trin Night Noctum, Just Another Joe, Dan, Scott Healy, Osmond, Joe, Champagne Sherpa, Scarlett Sane, I'm Aki, John, Heidi, Guinevere, and George. Thank you so much for all your support. But I'd love to hear what your guys' take on the retro game prices, all these trends we're seeing. Are you FOMO buying a couple titles? I can understand if there's a handful of titles that you always wanted to get and you finally remembered, oh, we should get them now. No judgment here, of course. Again, I just kind of wanted to share my perspective of how I plan on navigating the retro gaming markets currently, and just focus on those less expensive but wonderful gaming experiences that we still have today. But that's it for me, and I hope you guys tune in to the next video. So, bye for now.